the network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
This is AVWeek, episode 112, recorded Friday, October 11th, 2013. Nested.
Ready.
AVWeek.
Performing scan.
Week.
Online.
This is AVWeek. It's time for AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of audiovisual news and information. My name is Tim Albright. I'm your host for the week. Thank you so much for joining us, for downloading, for streaming it, however it is that you are listening to our voice. Thank you for doing so. This week we have on a plethora of guests. First and foremost, we have George Tucker, the engineering coordinator for World Stage. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. Great to be with everybody today.
Also with us is Adrian Boyd. He is the senior system designer for AVTexture. Hello, Adrian.
Oh, how's everybody?
Doing good. It's Friday, and I don't know. I like the fall, so I'm all jacked up on something today. George Smith is a newbie, so gentlemen, be nice to him. He's a freelance graphic technician, also works for audiovisualnewsweek.com. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Hello, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And last but not least, he is known as the Integrated Systems Area Sales Manager for Sennheiser USA in the Great Midwest. How are you, Mr. Michael Drainer?
Very well.
Good. This week we're going to talk about a couple different things. Sharp's got some stuff going on. Nest has released. Now they've done the coolest thermostat you've ever seen. Now they've done the coolest fire or a smoke detector you've ever seen. And we're going to talk about why that's important and why that matters for both residential and pro. But first, something that came down the pike yesterday, actually. So it is as late breaking news as we get in the world of AV. It comes from our buddy Ted Green over at Strategy, strategy.com. The piece quotes Reuters and AP and a couple other Bloomberg and a couple other news outlets. But the story says Panasonic is pulling the plug on plasma. Now, I'm a fan of alliteration, just like anybody else.
Ooh.
Very nice. So here's the thing. They're going to focus on LCDs. And the reason I mentioned the fact that Ted quoted and sourced this thing out is I was talking to a Panasonic rep yesterday, and I told, he knows that I do the podcast, and we were talking about various news stories. I said, hey, by the way, the Panasonic's, not going to do plasmas anymore. He goes, no, they're not. I said, no, there's, Reuters is reporting. He goes, no, that's not, they're not getting rid of plasma. So what we have is we have an interesting conundrum. Reuters, Bloomberg, the Nikkei are all reporting that Panasonic is shutting down their plasma. According to my local rep here, who just got back from Chicago and 2 days worth of meetings with Panasonic, they're not. They are focusing on LCD, absolutely, and they're coming out with some interesting things. But, quote unquote, they're still going to have their big, bad plasmas.
It's a ploy.
It's a ploy.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Smith,
I've got an answer for that one.
Go ahead.
Well, they didn't stop manufacturing, like put on the brakes and we're all out of them. No, they've got a buttload of plasmas because nobody wants to buy them, and of course they're going to say, "Hey, yeah, we're still making them. Please buy our plasmas." That's exactly what's happening.
That's a good point. So in other words, they're not going to do the manufacturing, but they're still going to have. They're going to have some in their distribution line.
Absolutely.
Okay, George Tucker. If this is true, if they are shutting down the production aspect, let's say, of the plasma, how big of a deal is that for the world of displays when there are people salivating over the possibility of OLED and LCD obviously is taken off, and even backlit LED has taken off. How big of a deal is it that one of the major plasma manufacturers may or may not be ending their production line?
At risk of sounding like a bad word these days, a moderate on this issue. I think George has got it partly right, and I think it's partly the people who will be most upset are the really high-end installations, because plasma's really not making that much of the market anymore. I mean, with LCD, you've got it's just good enough. It's just better than good enough, actually, if you really want to talk about it. And the difference in price and the difference in quality really only affects the high-end market. When you're talking about, the luxury market on the lower end, and granted, for some of us that's a lot of money still. Yeah. LCD's just better than good enough, and it works. It's got the nice off-angle access. It's not as good as plasma, but everybody that you talk to would love to see plasmas become the thing because of the high quality, because you sit there and go, wow, but nobody wants to pay the price for it. So just like the article said, despite what your connection has stated, if you read the article, they basically said that they're shifting the plant from 80% plasma or LCD even to 80% mobile. That's where everybody's going. And I have to invoke the Swanee inverse square rule here that I've often stated,
Poor Phil.
which is poor Phil, he loves it. Which, if no one's heard it before, which is every time Phil Swan of tvpredictions.tv says that nobody will watch a good enough amount of media on mobile devices or tablets, the users that do so doubles. It's the inverse square law for Swanee. And I think this is just showing it right there. And yeah, plasma would be nice, but everybody's moving towards it. Whether that's a good or bad deal, like MP3s versus high fidelity files and audio, it's still happening, and there we go.
Okay, Adrian, we're going to take something off of what George just said. So instead of focusing on the big mammoth screens, regardless of what the display technology is, according to George, they're going to focus more on the smaller pieces of glass. Is that a smart thing for plasma or for Panasonic to do?
Well, it depends on what their end goal is. I mean, to
make money.
Well,
I mean, I'm not being snide. That's their bottom line. Is the bottom line.
In their article, I mean, Panasonic has not done well for the last couple quarters. I mean, they've got a $15 billion net loss for the last 2 years. That's a lot of money for any company to lose. And, we look at a lot of the display manufacturers, especially the Japanese, they've had a huge problem the last couple of years of keeping market share, of keeping synergy and excitement with their product lines, because they're having to compete with a lot of the other Pan-Asian companies and countries in terms of production. Samsung has been nipping at their heels, LG, and all of the startups out of China. So they have to do something. And another article we're probably which really dovetails into this is overall global sales of flat panels has been relatively flat for the last little bit, and it's when you look at it, there's a couple factors involved. One is the economy is slightly depressed, but when we look at the amount of people who've bought, a lot of people have already bought that flat screen. They've bought it. They're happy with it. It's just good enough, as George has mentioned. And no one really wants to go out and buy anything new unless they have a catastrophic failure in a device.
Well, hang on for a second. I mean, we're not in the economy is not necessarily depressed anymore. We've come out of the recession, and I would say, as evidenced by the last two major AV trade shows, CEDIA and Infocom, and the fact that the people who are making buying decisions, the people who are actually putting their cash on the barrel, are coming back. Does that make sense, or am I missing something in the
relatively? Yes, that is true. But let's look at when we look at the terms of technology buying, what are people buying more of, and they're not batting an eye at? No one bats an eye at buying a new cell phone, a new smartphone, a tablet device, which makes sense if they're going to shift to mobile. No one's batting an eye at the prices. I mean, you look at what Amazon has done with their Kindles, with Apple, with Microsoft, and some of the talk of them purchasing Nokia. Mobile is kind of where it's at. No one's batting an eye at spending $600 or $400 on a device you put in your hand that has all the power of a TV and more some.
And then some, yeah.
So I don't see it a stretch for them to make that shift. Now, what are they going to come out with in terms of mobile? Who knows? Are they going to try to come up with a device that's going to compete with Apple, with HTC with all of these other mobile device providers, I don't know. I mean, I'm not in the Panasonic factory.
Yes.
But it'd be interesting to see what they come up with.
Michael, Adrian, go ahead.
And also, bear in mind, they have a huge market share when it comes to battery technology.
Well, battery technology, they have a huge. I mean, Panasonic is not a one-trick pony, right? I mean, they've got a huge line of projectors, some pretty innovative ones at that. They've got, good Lord, broadcast. They've got drills. I mean, actually, no, seriously, one of my favorite drills I've ever owned was a Panasonic cordless drill. The sucker just worked.
But if you think about it, if they're going to come up with a mobile device, and they have battery technology that can make it last 5 times as long as anything on the market, they may have something.
Michael, Adrian,
what's the number one accessory someone buys for an iPhone after they get it? It's usually either a portable charger or a battery extension.
It's Mophie.
Or a case.
Or my Mophie
or a case or something that's got a built-in battery.
Yeah.
So, there's all sorts of suppositions we can make about this.
So, Adrian, I have a question.
Sure.
Per Tim's statement that it's not really a depression, so we're just saying the economy is sort of melancholy right now? Is that what we're saying?
Sure.
No, I think Adrian hit it on the head when he said,
right?
Yeah, when you said the market was flooded with LCD technology and so forth and so on, I think that's exactly true. I think the price of big screen televisions have come down significantly in the past 2-3 years, that everyone bought them. And now we're in a point where they're all working. Why replace it? There is better technology out there, but why invest in it? And my television looks good enough.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're
mine
at.
looks great because it's a plasma. Thank you very much.
Now purchase, like a 50-inch plasma from Panasonic for around $700.
That's right. That's right. And that's, who would have thunk that would have been a price for a 50-inch plasma back in the day when they were first starting out? 50-inch, my God, that would have been $10,000, easily.
Okay, so hang on for a second, guys. Let me ask you, because you're throwing around some interesting numbers, and I want to take a couple steps back and look at the bigger picture here. Mm-hmm. Adrian made the comment that people are not batting an eye at spending $400, $500, $600 for a tablet, and he's right. Depending on the tablet, the iPads start at $500. The Kindle Fires are around $200. The Surface, if you'd like to go there, is like $700 or $800.
The what?
I'm not going there.
And even the Android tablets, they're all around that slightly $400 to $600 range.
Right.
It's the same price as a plasma. I mean, it's seriously. And so you guys are right. The people are making a conscious decision because the same amount of money is in their hand, the same amount of disposable income is in their checking account, and so they're making a conscious decision to purchase a considerably smaller screen that has a lot more functionality and obviously a lot more mobility. Where does that put us, though, in the next 4 or 5 years when it comes to both residential and pro AV, when the manufacturers who are manufacturing the displays aren't going to have the income to do the R&D? So are we going to be stuck in, I don't know, in 2010, 2013 technology for displays because they're simply not getting the revenue?
No. Can I answer that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no. You're going to have a reset of the type of technology. Basically, we're in a lull right now, but we're gearing up for 4K rollout and OLED, and that's going to happen come Christmas time.
Oh, George.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I want one for Christmas, damn it.
Well, you and me both, but we're not going to get an OLED for Christmas. I'm sorry to tell you. Not this year, not last year, not the year before that.
But 4K is going to be big time at the end of this year. And that's going to be the latest, greatest, and that's going to be the reset. And, of course, they're going to hit high. And it's going to be just like when they rolled out the large screen LCDs and plasmas. It's going to be not obtainable for now, and give it a year or so, and then it'll start coming down in price, and everyone will buy one. Not everyone, but a lot of people.
But
once the content exists, and that's always been the big argument we've had every time we've, on previous episodes, it's always been content.
Well, yeah.
There's no content to drive anything.
Well,
we
there's
have the technology. There's no content.
Yeah, I mean, Sony has their movies that they're offering. I think, what is it, 70 titles right now?
Mm-hmm.
They're allegedly going to 100 titles by the end of the year. But you are getting a lot of television stations that are starting to broadcast in 4K. And I'm thinking there are sports events, and I don't like sports. I just don't do sports. But I've heard that they're going to start doing the 4K thing, which would be amazing, And so, I mean, there is going to be content. There's just not a lot of content, but it's a start. It has to start somewhere.
But guys, I think the market's shifting a little bit, and I think the piece that we're overlooking is that even though the R&D is going into 4K, we are going to see the latest and greatest come out, and there will be investments made in that technology. Tim made a very good point, and that is that people only have, on the consumer side, a certain amount of disposable income available to them these days. And that being the case, even though the latest and greatest might be available, I think what we're going to see is people are going to invest more in the mobile technology than they are the fixed technology. When LCD and plasma first hit the market, we didn't have the huge saturation rate that we have today with the smartphone and the mobile devices. So we are seeing the consumers spend a tremendous amount more money into that space, therefore pulling more away from the large format displays. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm making a prediction that we are going to see in the next 5 years, we're going to see a great slowing in the large format display marketplace.
As far as technology or production or what?
No, as far as just overall sales. The new technology is going to come out. You're not going to see the huge saturation rate immediately like we saw with LCD and plasma because people are spending their money in different places.
All for the same type of device, i.e. a consumption device.
Correct.
Okay, I got you.
Correct.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and just to kind of, and we get asked a lot about is, well, how do I walk in with that device and I do a presentation? And we've seen inroads from a lot of manufacturers on how you get that smart device, your phone, your tablet, onto a projection system. So you're still going to have a projection system, but I think that infrastructure of how you get that content into that projection system, that's where we're going to start seeing more of the integration, more of the research being done so that you can make that happen. Because right now it's painful at best.
But Adrian, let's take that to the next step. Forget the large format display and forget the projection system.
Put the Pico projector in the phone or in the tablet.
Well, not even that, but we're going to take it to the point where you're bringing your mobile device in, and as soon as you walk in, the content's going to stream to your device. It's right in front of you. Why do I need a projector? Why do I need a display?
And that has been asked. Believe it or not, we had a client that asked, could that happen? Mm-hmm. And
absolutely,
we researched it.
Yeah.
But the cost right now is so astronomical to make that happen between various devices and manufacturers and ecosystems.
Okay, but here's the thing, guys. Here recently, I did I read up and had a presentation by Mersive, who has a product called Solstice. And they've got, it's a wireless video. ClickShare from Barco is a wireless video-ish thing. The Air Media from Crestron. Adrian's right. There's the integration part for us and for our industry is going to be getting it from your display, from whatever, to a bigger screen. Is going to be, there's still going to be a use case for the boardrooms and for classrooms and a lot more collaborative. That the more collaborative you can make it, the easier it's going to be to sell it, because like I mentioned the Mersive piece. Holy cow! And this thing does. You can show 4 or 5 displays at the same time, and you can have as many really in the queue, is what they call it, as you want. That's groundbreaking. Now it's still wireless video, right? Let's be honest here, and that still scares the bejesus out of me, because every time somebody says wireless video, and good Lord, I've been dealing with it and looking at it for the last, 5 or 6 years, 6, 7 years, when the first time I saw one, it's not the greatest thing in the world. And every time I see a demo, I'm pensive, I guess, or at least guarded that, yes, this looks great on the showroom floor, or yes, this looks great on the trade show floor, but put it in a real environment, right? Put it in a real working, classroom next to another classroom that has the exact same wireless system and see if they play nice with each other. So as we advance in technology, there will come a point in time when having wireless video and having this whole collaborative, huddle this or whatever space you want to call it, it is going to be there. The question is, when is that, and who is that first manufacturer going to be? All right, we've beaten
this horse.
I think we've solved. I think we've solved
solved the world's problems.
The world's problems.
Yes.
Up next, this comes from Nest, Nest.com. Everybody knows what Nest and the thermostat is. They made a big to-do about at CEDIA this year, opening up their API. Control 4, I think they probably had a deal going on beforehand, but they were the first ones to say, yes, we're going to integrate the Nest stuff into the Control 4 stuff. This week, if you were on the mailing list for Nest, you got a handy-dandy little email that said Nest Protect. And if you're as curious as I am, I, of course, immediately clicked on it. What Nest Protect is it's a smoke detector. Okay, moving on.
No.
Here's the thing. And this is just me, and I immediately showed my wife, and she said no, and I said, yes, I'm getting 6 of these. It's $130, right? And first of all, you can get it in black. That right there is just cool. But this thing is a smoke detector. It's a carbon monoxide alarm. It is doing for, at least it works like it says it does, and I have no reason to believe it doesn't because the Nest thermostat works like it says. It is the smartest, most giant leap forward for smoke detectors, and of course it's all integrated and it's wireless and it's on your network. It's the old adage, find the man who builds a better mousetrap. Well, they have done that. For years, all a smoke detector did was detect smoke, and this thing does a lot more. Michael, should we embrace Nest and their crazy, innovative ideas, or should we be frightened as AV integrators and AV consultants and programmers that here comes this company little by little, and they're worming their way into our homes?
It's the way it's going either way.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Whether you want to embrace Nest or if you want to embrace somebody else. I think it's pretty cool what they're doing. They're taking it to the next level. They're providing additional layers, not necessarily of protection, but ways of managing your protection and to know what's going on. Yeah. If you look at the website, I can't tell you how many times as a bachelor I burnt stuff in the kitchen.
I can tell you how many times because we lived together.
My roommate would tell you. So, you get the towel and you're waving it and trying to get it to shut up. You can't do that. Well, with this, you can actually just wave at it and say, yep, it's a false alarm, and it gets quiet and goes away to doing its thing. So I think that's pretty cool. The extended life batteries are a big deal. How many people forget to change the batteries in their smoke detectors? The fact it'll send you a text or an alert on your iPhone if there's a problem or your Android device. I think that's a really good step in preventative protection and proactive protection of your household and property, safety and health. So,
Mr. Tucker, how big of a deal is this that Nest is getting more and more integrated, or possibly, they're trying to get more integrated into our homes?
I think it's big on both levels, from a Control 4 or our industry of custom installation stuff, and from Nest. I think this was their plan all along, and they played the no, we're just doing this. This is our main goal thing. As we spoke
Very
earlier.
Apple-ish.
Yeah, sort of, hey, no, this is really what the plan is. We're dedicated to this. And of course, all along the plan was, let's finally find the right integrator and do that, because they want that market. And for someone like Control 4 and for Nest, I think this is huge, because you would then at once sort of cut off at the knees the alarm system and the cable company or phone company stuff that is trying to do that already. There are the cable companies and the security companies, and AT&T, I think they have the thing in the South. I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but they can do your security and your camera watching and control your lights and maybe add a remote control. They've sort of blocked that market and sort of given a foray of the mid-range home automation stuff into that market and saying, no, you don't want these guys. You guys got the guys who've been doing it and are the cool guys. So I think it's... You go ahead.
No, go ahead, George.
I was just say, I wrote an article about this in Commercial Integrator about the ecosystems, friend or foe, and a lot of the consensus is, they're never going to get into this, but they are, and you have to sort of see them as friend and be able to make your way through them and accept that when Nest comes to Control 4, that's a really good thing for the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. George Smith is like Mr. Tucker says, is Nest good for the industry?
Oh, you know it is. And thank God for smartphones and smart pads, because that made it all possible. It was waiting for that. To be able to connect to your phone or your pad and then know exactly what's happening at your house. It's a huge leap. What I got a jolly out of was the light ring that says the level of danger. Is it like yellow, you're going to start coughing, red, I'm sorry, you're dead now. I thought that was kind of cool. Level of danger light.
Well, and the
Warning,
fact that
Will Robinson, warning.
Yeah,
Warning, Will Robinson. Yes.
Also, it's a wayfinder light at night. When you turn off all the lights, it actually gives almost like a night light. Maybe I could take out my kids' night lights and just replace it with this. And it talks to you, which I know it's cheesy, but it's freaking cool. It says danger. There's smoke in the X room, in whatever room you tell it to be. Adrian, where are we with Nest? Where are we loving them, or are we scared to death of them?
No, we're not scared of them at all. They're taking technology that's already been around more in the consumer world, and more in the I would say the professional world, because this type of technology exists in smart buildings. So they're just kind of putting it all together for a residential environment. Just a couple of key things to remember is it's not certified yet. It still has to go through a lot of the certifications to make it a smoke alarm that's, viable to use in a residence. The other thing to do is all those 9-volt battery manufacturers are just going to be out of replacing smoke alarms.
Well, and he makes a good point, because there is a wired version as well as a battery version.
Yep.
You can order either one. Is that smart? And I'm not a fire anything. I'm asking a question here. Is that smart to have a wired smoke alarm?
Most new construction has a dedicated. You have a dedicated 120-volt line to your breaker panel, and they're hardwired.
Okay.
And they have battery backup.
Yeah.
And so you get both. So if you replace smoke alarms, which you're supposed to do every 10 years, they'll have a little connector on the back. It looks like a Phoenix block. You plush it in, and it's powered. It's wired. You put the battery in, you're ready to go. And then there are others that are low voltage, but most of them are wired. That's how they work in tandem together. When an alarm goes off, then they're all triggered.
Now they'll just do this one PoE.
Very nice. They should do that, actually.
They should. That would be cool.
Yeah, that should be their next one. By the way, the fact that you have to replace it every 10 years, that's my in with my wife. So thank you very much, Adrian.
I'm serious. I just in the place that we're staying, we're renting. I just replaced all the fire alarms because they were past due, and I was having issues, and I just replaced them all. Told the landlord they had to be replaced, and just did it. But if you look at them, they have little tags: replace every 10 years, because only older fire alarms actually, some of them actually had a little radioactive activator in them.
Mm-hmm.
Very
And
nice.
they're all being cycled out now to newer technology, and some of them are almost as smart as the Nest, depending on the price point.
Yes, but they don't look as cool. And it doesn't.
Well, I'm trying to figure out why they went white and black, because don't you want to have a white thing on the ceiling?
Well, here's the thing, though. That's a good point. the fact that I showed my kids this, and my 5-year-old son immediately said he wanted a black one because it was cool. So it's there.
It glows.
There's a decora thing here. That's the one thing that Nest, the thermostat, did, was the fact that it replaced this clunky, boxy-looking thing with a very Apple-ish, and I hate going back to that, but that is the aesthetic that they were going for, and I think they achieved it. It's very Apple-ish aesthetic, and if they can continue that through the rest of their product line, whatever that may be, I think they'll have more than one or two winners.
So when are they coming out with the camera version?
What do you mean?
So, like Vivint, and you were talking about AT&T and all these that do the video surveillance and everything, they need to put the camera on board for remote surveillance of your home.
Oh, I would have problems with that.
Well, people do it all the time.
I know,
yeah,
but
they put surveillance in their home for their own personal use.
I still, that's creepy to me.
I just did it for my new daughter. We have a smart baby monitor.
Okay, smart. Hang on for a second. I'll give you smart baby monitor. What Michael's talking about, though, is putting a camera inside a smoke alarm and putting it in someone's bedroom. I got a.
Yeah,
I didn't. No. I didn't say. I didn't say.
Very afraid.
I did not mean somebody's bedroom.
Well, that's what
it's something you put in the living room where it's looking toward the front door, or it's in the kitchen where you can watch what's going on in the kitchen.
All right.
People do it all the time.
Michael has a boy, and I have a girl. That's why I think that way. So you ain't putting no camera.
Okay, so we had this discussion a while back about the remote video surveillance. Yes. That's not what I'm talking about. Yeah. I'm talking about the fact that people put surveillance at their homes so that they can personally log in and see what's going on.
I got you.
It's a separate device that you would have to do.
Okay.
Now, what I find interesting with this whole thing is they're kind of turning this market a different direction. All these providers that you talked about before, they subsidize the hardware in exchange for the services. These guys are taking the different approach. It's more the Apple approach. Here's the hardware. Service is free. You use your internet connection. You do your own deployment. You handle it. It's all on you.
The hardware is what it is. The price is what it is.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a premium there. I mean, the Nest device is $200. The thermostat is $250. That's an expensive thermostat.
But amortize that out over the life of the product, and it's definitely going to be cheaper than paying for that recurring service.
Yes.
Now, as Adrian was talking about the certifications and whatnot, I don't know where they stand on this, but then you get into the whole remote and alarm monitoring piece of that and the peace of mind that brings to consumers. So this is not going to captivate the market holistically, but it's definitely going to hit the DIYers.
I think it'll hit the DIYers, but in addition to that, it'll hit people who see the value in first of all, you've got two different monitors here, right? You've got a CO monitor, a carbon monoxide monitor, and at least in the state of Illinois, you have to have one. It's the law. And then you have the smoke detector. Throw in the fact that it's just flippin' cool, and it does all these other things. It does, the remote monitoring. It tells you where the issues are. It has a light, if you turn off the lights and stuff. I think that more than just DIYers will tackle into this.
But my point is, how does it, because I didn't see anything in the website, I'm curious to see how it's going to integrate with third-party monitoring services and how it's going to be adopted into that environment.
There was nothing in the video, at least in the promo video, about integrating. There's nothing about the API, right? And I think we'll have to wait until they get, go through the approval process, and then once it goes out there. So you are listening to AV Week. That gentleman right there is Michael Drainer from Sennheiser. George Smith is here from audiovisualnewsweek.com. Adrian Boyd from Avitexture, and George Tucker from World Stage. From AVinteractive.com, Sharp introduces a 4K 32-inch touchscreen monitor. My initial thought on this, and George, you're the only one of us here that I know of that has ever worked directly for a control manufacturer, so we'll kick this off with you. Are we going to get to the point where control companies stop making touch panels, or at least slow them down?
One would wonder. I mean, the whole consumer grade stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I remember working for that and watching the joy, the rapturous joy that many dealers had when these things came out and they knew they could at least force it to be a touch panel without having to buy the company panels. And then, again, joy, hey, you finally accepted it and released an app for doing it. Great. They really were looking for this. And I think you're right. They won't be making their own touch panels in the numbers and types that they do now. I think you'll have some very industrial versions, but they may actually become the suppliers. I mean, people like Crestron and AMX who make a lot of their own may become the manufacturing provider to others. And I think that's a possibility, regardless of the Chinese making 1,000 cheap ones. You want that industrial version that'll last inside of a warehouse or in a plant that needs it. Then that's where you're going to get it from. But other than that, I think unless something remarkable changes.
Or on a college campus when you have professors punching touch panels. So.
That's true, but don't you want the cheaper ones then? Because you could just replace them.
That is true, yeah. Just give me that.
Because they're going to find a way no matter what.
Oh, jeez.
Well, this device from Sharp, I think, is a little overkill for a touchscreen. Because what it's ultimately was designed for, it's for your graphic designers, your CAD people, your medical imaging market. I mean, 32 inches, that's a big touchscreen to stick in a lectern or on a boardroom table just to have, it's 4K and it's a touchscreen.
Says who?
Okay,
says who?
Hang on for that.
Come on, I disagree. I think that'd be cool.
Well, but wait a minute. It's not, but he's right. The design for it is for designers to use CAD and those engineering types, because it's got like a 2 millimeter, I don't want to say pitch, but like that 2 millimeter pen
Yeah.
moving around very small technical objects, and it's made to lay flat like a drawing panel, and you can still see it 4K flat off axis. That's the remarkable part about it, I think.
Gentlemen?
Yeah, and honestly, when you do apples to apples comparison with a touchscreen and this, I mean, its MSRP price is around $5,200.
Okay.
That's pretty pricey.
No, it's not. Not when you compare it to a touch
when
panel.
you look at what it does.
Not when you compare it to. Hang on for a second. Not when you compare it to a touch panel. A 6-inch. Let's say a Madero 8 or 10 inch is $5,000 or $6,000 list price.
Right.
Okay, so you have a 32-inch for the same price
with finite high pitch.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm paying the same price and I'm getting 3 times as much real estate. I'll do that all day, every day. The other thing I wanted to point out, though, is annotation. Annotation, when it comes to college classrooms, you have the ability, when it comes to, you can have annotation and showing students what you're talking about on the board. You can do a smart board. You can do an integrated an integrated annotation system with projectors. Epson's got them now. Sony has them now. Or you could integrate that into your touch panel and bring up that image on your touch panel and annotate directly on the touch panel. You tell me that a professor, regardless of what they're teaching, wouldn't rather write directly on the lectern instead of having to go up to the board and manage this thing, that, and the other. That's a great annotation tab.
Yeah, it's like your symposiums and your Wacom panels
Yes.
and stuff like that. And this is putting it at a price point and with a level of detail that you don't get with any of those systems.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
George Smith, what do you think about this 32-inch 4K touch panel?
Oh, well, like you said, for education, I think they would drool over something like that. It's a high-tech overhead projector. Really, to be able to draw on it. Yes, and it's just, 32 inches. Really, that's huge. I think it's all touch panels basically have not really caught on. If you think about it, how often do we really see touch panels out there other than in exhibits and so forth and so on, that kind of thing. But in even in education, in audiovisual life, we really don't see it a whole lot other than exhibit booths. So is it going to catch on? Probably not. Is it awesome technology? It certainly is.
Yeah. It's just cool. And I like the idea. 32 inches.
I think it's a game changer. I really do. Especially when you get into engineering studies, you get into CAD programs and medical and imaging, and think about all the educational applications there, and then take that up to the professional level, right? When we're sitting in a design meeting or something along that lines, the ability to pull up a schematic and to with detail be able to mark that thing up without having to get the mouse out and the wacky pad or whatever that you want to use, to be able to walk up to the screen and do that with the 2mm detail. I think that's just a real game changer in many different aspects of the industry.
As long as you don't lose the pen.
As long as
Yes.
well, exactly,
No,
exactly,
that's
and that's a valid point. But that's just like my iPad now. I keep 4 stylus in my bag because I use them like crazy.
Good Lord.
Are you telling me you suffer from fat finger syndrome?
That and I use it for taking a lot of notes. So I've got some cool handwriting apps I use.
And if I can
Notes plus.
backtrack a little bit on that, the touch panel, we're doing that now with pads. Smart pads and all that, and doing presentations in rooms. Again, I can see this is awesome technology, but really, iPads, smart pads, they're doing it also, and you can present almost the same with your pad. And I suspect that that's going to be a common thing. That everyone's going to do a connection to the projector or a connection to the 4K monitor and show your work that way and connect wirelessly to that. So I'm not sold on the touch screen here, the 32-inch Sharp.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait and see on that one. From residentialsystems.com, Geffen founder has stepped down. Mr. Geffen, who Geffen now is a part of Nortech Technology Solutions Group. Geffen will be led by Sean Burke. Going forward, Burke said that this is a natural evolution that we have all been anticipating for some time now. So no big surprise here. That's not the story, but I just want to talk a little bit about what Geffen means and what Mr. Geffen actually has done for the industry. Adrian, we'll kick it off with you. What when the book is finally written about Mr. Geffen, what will it say?
Well, he helped, popularize, DVI as an input output. They had some of the first DVI products out there, along with DVI gear, and they slowly developed products that we now use. Some people disagree with some of their thought process, but they were some of the early manufacturers of digital technology, so that we could get from point A to point B before Extron and Crestron and those other companies started making products, getting out of the analog world and going into the digital world. So I think that's a lot what Geffen has brought to the table.
George Tucker, what will the history book say about Mr. Geffen?
I think he nailed it. They, like some of the others we've talked about in the last few months, either moving on or passing on, they developed these little add-on intermediate devices that let us transition from one to the next step, and they're still used daily. Hell, I have more Geffen stuff in my shop right now that we use on a regular basis because we're going DVI all the time, as we've had these arguments on air. We use DVI all the time, and sometimes we need to convert back and forth or change something about it, and these boxes are just wonderful, and it was a big step forward. Although I do have a question. It's always interesting, right, to see what happens to companies after the main guy leaves. And I know they always make the little salutations that we're going to continue with the engineering department and it'll always be the same, just new leadership at the helm. Yeah. But look what happened to things like Apple or even AMX and Speakercraft after their main person went away. I'll be eager to see what happens with the company if they continue on or become more consumer centric or go in a different direction. I'm not quite clear.
That's a good question. It'll be something interesting to watch. Michael, when it comes to integration and both residential and commercial, what will we finally say about what Geffen has done?
Ditto.
Ditto.
No, I mean, George and Adrian, they pretty well covered it. Really, Geffen has, they've paved the way in many different aspects of the industry, making affordable, low-profile devices that are real problem solvers for the industry. And I hope that the continuing management carries on that legacy and continues to grow the company and to be as innovative as they've been in the past.
George Smith, you have the last word on this. What will we finally say about Mr. Geffen and his legacy in the AV industry?
I love him, man.
Okay.
He's the quality of his equipment is just unbelievable, and he's been doing it for 25 years. HDMI that was pretty amazing. He pushed that huge. Thank you, Mr. Geffen. He's kind of like a really quiet guy. He's not like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs. The name Geffen, you know the equipment, you know the company, but you never actually knew him. He was not as outspoken as the last two I mentioned. He's just quiet. He does his thing. He puts out great stuff. And he was really good at it. So yeah. I hope it's more of he's retiring kind of a thing, and not being pushed out kind of a thing. I don't know. You never know.
Well, you don't. But that was part of the whole purchase from Nortec was.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying about the push out thing. It's like you never know. It might be. I don't want to go. Leave me alone.
Just let me do my thing.
That's right.
From Commercial Integrator, this is written by our good friend Mr. Chris Netto. What's in the bag? The 8 must-haves for your site survey. So, gentlemen, I'm not going to ask you if you want to comment on Chris's list here, and I'll go over it real quickly, but I want you to add to it maybe. Number 1 is a checklist. Number 2 is a tape measure and a laser tape. I'm not sure why you need both of those, but we'll move on.
Tape measures are only so long.
But that's what I'm saying.
Exact-
And a laser tape doesn't work in finite situations.
All right. Light meter. I only take a laser tape. Light meter, an SPL meter, a camera of some sort, a flashlight, source material. Notice that he doesn't have a VHS on here somewhere. And bring your own cables. So,
Hey.
Mr. Smith, we'll kick it off with you.
Yeah, with great respect for Chris, you know what? I've got my iPhone. My iPhone.
I was just going to say that.
I mean,
You stole mine.
we're all going to say that, right? It's just like, okay, 9 out of 10 things in that list, my iPhone has it all.
And
so
what is the
cross out? I'm sorry. Cross out 7 of those, and the last thing is bring your own cables. I'm in. I'm going to bring my own cables.
Wow.
Everything else I can do on my iPhone.
Mr. Drainer, that was yours.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's got my flashlight. It's got my SPL meter. It has my spectrum analyzer. Now I can do full FFT on it. It's got my camera. Source material is on it. It's got a level.
Okay, but here's the thing. Let me ask you a question. I've got
don't trust the level on the iPhone or the iPads because they're not calibrated properly.
Yeah, but you know what? For a site survey, it gets you darn close.
Well, that was going to be my question. I've got an SPL meter and on my Android and actually on the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
Is that accurate? I mean, seriously?
Well, does it have to be incredibly accurate? No.
We're more concerned about relative levels than we are exact levels in most situations. You know, we're looking at relative changes. HVAC's off, HVAC on. What's the difference?
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm. All right. Adrian, what's 1 or 2 things that you can add to this list?
Let's see, not a lot. I mean, Chris has kind of got it bang on. I mean, I like to carry pencils with me, and erasers and a ruler, and like a real ruler, an actual scale ruler, so that because you never know when you might actually have a set of plans put in front of you. You need to do some quick math. A calculator is always helpful, but it's on your phone too. So, I mean, any sort of electronic device that has most of the stuff is pretty good. There's actually a couple companies that are making products that specifically tie to your iDevice or your Android phone, so you can actually do a 3D scan of a room, and then be able to import that into any CAD program. I'm interested in getting something like that, but man, they're really expensive.
All right, Mr. Tucker, last but not least, whether it's an integration house or that does pro or residential or maybe even staging and events, what's 1 or 2 things that you can add to Chris Netto's list here?
Yeah, and on the iPhone thing, that works for most basic site surveys or when you're using the iPhone tools, but when you're in something like a live event staging where we do video mapping, you have to have those laser things because we need to get a really accurate read. But aside from that, the thing that we always learned, especially when I was working for a manufacturer, is we had to put a class in to tell people what to bring with them because they were going, what do you mean I need to bring that? The following things I think they need to bring at all times. Right, here we go. A tweaker.
Oh, yeah.
That's valid.
Question: Which version? The really
you
cool
get one that does both.
No, the really cool Vadio one, or the crappy old one that you haven't gotten for 3 years. Sorry. Go ahead.
I don't know. I get mine from Grainger. How about that?
There you go.
So there you go. A pair of headphones. One with both a 1/4 inch and an 1/8 inch that screws on, sort of like the Sony ones use. Why? Because you always need to
like the
double-check the
Sennheiser
source.
ones. You mean?
Sure. There you go.
Very nice.
No, not sure.
Oh, gee.
That's bad.
He's here all week.
Unfortunately, he is. Go ahead.
Moving on. A multimeter and or phase checker for electric.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
right.
that's good.
Those come into hand all the time. It don't work. Oh yeah, here's why. So that's my list. Those are physical things that you need to take that can't really be put in an iPhone, not currently at least.
Well, and two, I think it depends on the situation. You know, George does a lot of rental, staging, rigging type situations versus a customer site survey for a new installation where, you know, you need to just get a rough estimate of what's going in. So I think, you know, a good understanding of what your objective is and who you're going to see and what your purpose is can help refine that list.
Well, that right there,
Yeah.
some sort of general, not an entire scope of work, because some of that is going to happen at the site, but a general idea. what are they trying to accomplish here? Why am I going here?
Right.
Well, I say that stuff because what does every one of these manufacturers and audio devices have on the back? Terminals, screw terminals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So multimeter, check that there's actually continuity. Screw terminals to make sure they're seated back properly. Let alone going and opening a panel and looking at the buttons. But
very valid.
And I guess another thing I could add is when you take photos, is give a perspective of what you're taking for a photo. There's nothing worse when you get a site photo and it's like, I don't know what this is for, or what's
it's
it in
close-up.
relation to.
Right.
There's like a picture of a wall. Okay, what's with the wall? When you take photos of a site, I love the panoramic feature on an iPhone because I can do a whole sweep of the room and get a good idea of what I've got, and then I can do my close-ups of my various sections and things like that.
No, I like that. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us for this week. With this has been Mr. George Smith. He is a freelance graphic technician and also with audiovisualnewsweek.com. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
How can people find you, whether it be on the interwebs or physically on Twitter, Facebook, whatever?
Oh, just go to audiovisualnewsweek.com, and there's lots of ways to get in touch with me from there.
Okay. That will work fine. Also with us, Adrian Boyd from Avitexture. He is the senior systems designer. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And how can people get a hold of you?
Well, they can always visit avitexture.com and see some of the things we do, but they can also get a hold of me on Twitter. I am the_AV_CAD_guy on Twitter, and I try to have funny things and interesting articles and so on. And I'm on all the other interweb things, LinkedIn and Google Plus and so on.
Very good. George Tucker from World Stage. Thank you, sir. And how can people find you?
They can find me almost anywhere. Tucker2s is my social handle. If it's a platform, I'm there. I'm also currently writing for Corporate Tech Decisions and Commercial Integrator. Find my articles there. We'd love to get your comments.
He's getting entirely too big for us now, guys. He's a writer.
My pants do feel a little tight. Yeah, you're right.
We're not worthy.
That's a whole nother reason. We're not worthy. Wow. Last but not least, Mr. Sennheiser USA himself, Michael Drainer, the area sales manager, for integrated systems from Midwest. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
And how can people find you?
At Michael Drainer on Twitter. Also, mdrainer at SennheiserUSA.com.
I didn't know Sennheiser made headphones.
Oh, what?
I don't have a pair. Therefore, I don't know that you.
What did you use at Infocom?
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember?
Very nice.
Yes.
Those were not just headphones. Those were broadcast little microphone headphones.
But they're the same headphones as the HD 280s.
Really?
They just have a mic on them.
They were very comfortable.
Yep.
Nice and squishy.
Yes.
All right. No, Sennheiser didn't pay jack for that. My name is Tim Albright. Go by the website if you would, please. You'll find this program as well as a host of others. We just did our control show about a week ago called The State of Control. We've got education, live staging and events, DIY, all sorts of social media and marketing show, and obviously this one as well. So AVNation.tv, AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. It's all the time we have for AV Week.